She thought it was just another ordinary day. Walking into the office, she expected routine. Emails, meetings, maybe a few smiles. But in one moment, everything shifted. A whisper, a glare, a cruel joke meant for her alone. Suddenly, the world she trusted didn't feel safe anymore. What she endured next wasn't just personal. It was a glimpse into a prejudice that still lingers, unspoken, in plain sight. How far would someone go just because of the color of her skin? This is her story, and the truth will shock you. It was a typical morning for Maya. She woke before sunrise, brewed her coffee, and kissed her little brother goodbye before heading to the library where she worked. Life wasn't perfect, but it was familiar, safe even. She knew the streets, the neighbors, the rhythm of her city like the back of her hand. People smiled, cars honked, and the world moved around her with quiet predictability. Yet beneath the calm, subtle whispers followed her. Glances lingered too long. Doors closed a fraction sooner when she approached. She felt it, but brushed it off. After all, she'd grown used to being overlooked. Still, there was a tension she couldn't shake, a sense that today something might break the fragile balance she relied on. Something unseen but dangerous was waiting just around the corner. Maya stepped out of the library, her arms heavy with books, the afternoon sun casting long shadows on the sidewalk. At first, everything seemed normal. People walked by, laughing, talking, living their day-to-day lives. But then she noticed the whispers, the quick glances exchanged when she passed. A man sitting on the corner muttered something under his breath, and she caught a flash of sneer from someone across the street. She tried to ignore it, telling herself she was imagining things. By the time she reached the bus stop, the tension had grown almost unbearable. A group of teenagers nudged each other, laughing, but the laughter wasn't innocent. It was sharp, pointed, aimed at her. Her heart raced as they followed, keeping just enough distance to make her uneasy, but not enough to confront openly. She clutched her bag tighter, scanning for a familiar face, a safe haven. There was none. The bus arrived, and she climbed aboard, hoping the movement would shield her. But even there, she felt eyes burning into her back, whispers traveling just beyond her hearing. A man sat a few seats away, muttering something she couldn't make out, but his tone was dripping with disdain. She gripped the seat in front of her, trying to ground herself, telling herself it was just nerves. When she got off at her stop, things escalated further. On the corner near her apartment, a man blocked her path, leaning casually against the wall. His smile was slow, deliberate, and cold. "You don't belong here," he said, loud enough for passers-by to notice. The street, once familiar and safe, suddenly felt hostile. All her instincts screamed at her to turn around, to run, but she couldn't, not now. As she hurried down the street, other eyes joined his. A cluster of neighbors she had known for years avoided her gaze, some shaking their heads, muttering apologies she didn't need. It was as if invisible lines had been drawn, and she was on the wrong side. Fear mingled with anger, and her chest tightened. Why was this happening? What had she done to deserve this treatment, simply for existing? Then, at the corner of her block, she froze. A car had pulled up, engine humming softly, windows tinted so she couldn't see inside. Her pulse quickened. Something about the way it stopped there deliberately made her skin crawl. She felt trapped, watched, every move magnified under the judgment of strangers. Her mind raced, heart pounding. Would this be another fleeting moment of harassment, or was something far worse about to unfold? Maya's day had started like any other, ordinary and predictable. But now every step she took was shadowed by suspicion, danger, and injustice. And she realized the world she thought she understood wasn't safe, not really. Something had shifted, and there was no going back. The question was, how far would they go, and how far would she have to fight to survive this invisible war?
Maya's footsteps echoed as she ran toward her apartment, but the sound of the car behind her grew louder, closer. Panic clawed at her chest. She could hear the engine, feel the vibration through the pavement, sense the intent in the way it followed her every move. Every instinct screamed to hide, but there was nowhere safe. Every alley, every doorway, every familiar street corner was now shadowed by the threat. Suddenly, the car door opened and a man stepped out. His eyes were cold, his movements deliberate. "You think you can walk freely here?" he spat, the words cutting sharper than any blade. The world seemed to constrict around her, the air thick, heavy. People passed by, indifferent or afraid to intervene, and Maya realized just how isolated she was in that moment. Her heart thundered, her breath came in short, sharp gasps, but she refused to collapse under the weight of fear. Anger flared, anger at the injustice, at the whispers, the stares, the invisible walls that had been built around her simply because of who she was. She took a shaky step forward, and in that instant, the man lunged, trying to block her path, to intimidate her into submission. Time slowed, every second stretched, every heartbeat loud and hollow in her ears. She could feel the eyes of strangers watching, waiting, and she knew this moment wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every person who had been silenced, overlooked, or shamed for being different. She had to choose, retreat and be crushed by fear, or stand, no matter the cost. With a deep, trembling breath, she forced herself to meet his gaze, refusing to step back. For the first time, the trembling in her legs felt like strength, the pounding in her chest like a drum of defiance. She realized that survival wasn't just about escape, it was about refusing to be invisible in the face of hatred. And just as the man raised his hand, ready to assert control, a voice cut through the tension, sharp and commanding, a reminder that she was not completely alone. But would it be enough? Would it change the course of what was about to happen? Maya finally reached the safety of her apartment, heart still racing, body trembling, but she was alive. The threat had passed, at least for now, yet the weight of what had happened pressed heavily on her chest. She sank onto her bed, staring at the walls of her room, trying to make sense of the fear, the anger, and the disbelief that had engulfed her in those moments. Nothing about the world outside had changed, yet everything inside her had shifted. She realized that what she had faced wasn't an isolated incident, but a reflection of a reality millions endure every day. The stares, the whispers, the deliberate attempts to intimidate or diminish someone because of their skin, their identity, their existence, these weren't accidents. They were symptoms of a system, of a culture that allowed prejudice to linger unchecked. And while Maya had survived this encounter, she carried with her the truth that countless others might not have been so lucky. But within that fear, a spark ignited. The anger that once threatened to overwhelm her transformed into resolve. She would not shrink. She would not allow the injustice to erase her presence or her voice. Every step she had taken in defiance of fear became a statement. Her life, her dignity, her humanity could not be diminished by the ignorance of others. This story is bigger than Maya. It is a mirror held up to society, reflecting both our failures and our potential for change. It asks us to see, to question, to act. How many more will face the same invisible battles before the world acknowledges the depth of this injustice? How long will silence and complacency continue to empower cruelty? Maya's day ended with her doors locked, but her spirit was unlocked. And the question remains for all of us: when will we step up, speak out, and refuse to let fear and prejudice dictate who deserves safety, respect, and dignity?